Hello and welcome back if you have been here before to the Irish Mags Show and for episode 5, which is our first episode of a brand new year, 2024. My name is Paul. I will be your host for today. My first duty is, of course, to wish all of our members and our listeners a very happy new year for 2024. And joining me, as always, are my two talent. It's that word talented got put in the script again. We need to start
Yeah.
talking about who's doing that. My two talented co-hosts, fresh and ready with their New Year's resolutions. It's Mr. Alan Williamson. Say hello, Alan.
How's it going, lads? How are you?
And Mr. Krisho Martin. Hello, Krisho.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Happy New Year. I didn't tee you up to say hello, Krisho there because
I know, yeah.
we're gonna get rid of it.
Uh,
we can't be having you having a catchphrase. Yeah, you've already got it. Did we have a good Christmas, lads? And most importantly, any resolutions for 2024? Alan?
Had a great Christmas. Absolutely no resolutions. I don't believe in that stuff. I'm going to be the same person I was 2 weeks ago as I am next week. Don't worry about it.
That's very disappointing for us because we were hoping for a
yeah.
Oh, that's regrettable. Krisho, can you give us something?
I'm going to completely change everything I do and say going forward and be a real, positive super supporter with a real knowledge from 1971 all the way up to present day of Newcastle United. I've done my study over Christmas, which was great. And the unfortunate thing about it is that we now have to talk about how Newcastle did over Christmas and New Year's. Sorry, everybody.
Slightly. I mean, that is one of the reasons why we're going to be doing this every week. We've been spoiled. Like, we've probably been a little bit spoiled, particularly when we started the pod, lads, because we had a lot of really, really good results and goals and performances to talk about. And it's just tapered off slightly, but we hope it's just a blip. And I think, look, we wouldn't be Newcastle fans if we weren't used to talking about some disappointing things over the years. But we've also been a bit spoiled, in my opinion. We're going to have to get used to this, lads. We can't have it all. Excellent. So, look, as it's kind of, I suppose, a New Year's special, we will go through some of our usual segments, looking at the recent Irish Mags events that we've had on the last few weeks. After, as we've said, what is now 3 disappointing results, I guess, since we last recorded. Just the 3 games, lads, to talk about. But we'll blitz over some of the main points. And then what I really want to start talking about is a little bit of transfer rumors, squad rumors as well, and discussions around the squad and around the management, stuff like that, things that have been going on, especially based on what we're seeing in our WhatsApp groups in the Irish Mags community. Loads of ammunition there. We, of course, then have to turn our eyes to what has emerged to be like a rather, I mean, it's a big clash when you draw Sunderland in the cup, but it's just, I feel like every day it's becoming an even bigger deal, I suppose.
Yeah,
there's a lot riding it, a lot more than just a place in the 4th round, basically.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to talk about that. But before we go into all that, lads, because New Year, new us, I thought it would be a good idea if we just take a little moment to reflect on 2023. It's been a great year for the Irish Mags in terms of everything that's been going on in and around the community. But it's also been a great year, if you take a step back and think about it overall. As Newcastle fans or anyone connected with the club, working, playing for the club, following everything like that, it's been a hell of a year in terms of like just a calendar year itself. So I thought it might be a nice little idea if we rank some of the moments of 2023.
Sure.
So we had a good selection to choose from. So we've been doing our homework in the background, folks. Peek behind the curtain for the listeners, and we've come up with a kind of a list of what we feel are the key highlights for Newcastle in 2023. And definitely some honorable mentions in there because I think we sat down to put together 5 and we've ended up with like 12. So there's more than enough. And I think what we might start doing is just I might kind of go through what we've got ranked on the screen in front of us here. And I'll maybe just come to you, lads, for your memories of said moment in 2023. And what we'll truly find out, Alan, is how drunk Krisho was at each of these moments.
Absolutely.
That'll really tell you. So I think if I'm kind of focusing on some moments / results, and I've kind of grouped some with if a particular moment happened in the same game, I think that's, we can combine those as that moment because it's on the same day or the same evening. So the first one we can say we'll start with this one as number 5 is an 8-0 win over Sheffield United. And Alan, I'm going to come to you first for this one because, normally if we ask you to start counting past 5 and you have to get your shoes and socks off. So,
that's exactly it.
But tell us your memories of that 8-0 win over Sheffield United. And what I remember to be 8 different goal scorers.
8 different goal scorers it was indeed. I tell you, that was the first time in my whole life where I've been watching a Newcastle match going, I actually can't believe I want this match to end. It's getting boring. Went 6, it went 7. I was like, what's the point of this? I said, you get better football down St. Dan's Park on a Sunday morning. Like, that Sheffield United team were the worst team I'd ever seen. Now they're significantly better at the minute. But just that day was such a weird sensation to go, watching Newcastle absolutely hockey someone. And I'm nearly not bored. Obviously, it was great crack, but I was like, this is not a good standard of football to be playing against.
Yeah.
That was the way I felt about it, which is unusual.
It was a bit like that meme from The Simpsons where Ralph is there. It's not mightn't be Ralph, but one of the kids in the group, and it's like, "Stop it already." And, I think that's probably fair because, like, we just gave them an absolute hiding. And Krisha, what's even more mad about that game, in hindsight now, of course, is that our only away win of the season so far. Recording.
I had would you believe, everybody and you guys here in the studio with me, I had a bet on at 7-0. Yeah, there you go. Check that out. I could have won.
Back to the half time and all. I was there when he done it, so it was unbelievable.
I could have. So I think it was 427 euros off €1 or €2 or something like that.
Mental.
Something mental. And then I was like, I can't believe it's 7-0. Like, everyone was kind of like, this is insane. Because, like Alan said, Sheffield United were very poor. But Newcastle, this is the Newcastle that I think Eddie Howe wants, how they want to play. We could demolish a lot of teams like this, if I'm frank. We did it to Villa. We did it to Chelsea. We've done it to Sheffield United. We did it to Spurs. This is the Newcastle I think that we've all been spoiled with. And we'll lead on in the obviously the podcast, Paul, that, I think we've been a little bit spoiled. But our only away win, frankly, I'm really trying to pinpoint what's happening to us away. I think we're getting caught early, fast, heavy, and early. And with the injuries, with the fact, like Eddie made a very good point last night. I don't know whether you guys caught it. I'm sure you did. But because we have to use the same team, he's not really able to coach or train anybody. They're just resting between games. So they're not really getting to work on anything. And he's just putting the same 11 out again. So, look, that's no excuse, but it was our only away win of the season.
It was
kind of yikes.
I'm going to say hold that thought because a question will come to later in the pod when we're talking about some of the performances. My question is going to be, what do we need to do to get back to that version of Newcastle that we've seen? And Krisha, you mentioned it, Chelsea, Villa. We're gonna talk about it shortly. Champions League performance. So just hold that thought and keep that question in the back of your mind because I'm coming for you shortly. I was going to say I'll be coming at you fast because that might take us on to number 4 in our list of moments of 2023 was when a man by the name of Alexander Isak picks up the ball on the halfway line in our fixture against Everton. I can't remember the specific month, but it was in the latter half of the season, right?
February, I think, was it?
Season, yeah, it might have been. It was definitely obviously before the summer, but Isak picks up the ball and he said, "I'm going to come at Everton fast." Rings around like 4 or 5 players, and the same couple of them 2 or 3 times. And I've written it here as the assist that wasn't, because technically it wasn't an assist, which is a travesty. But I think just for an individual piece of brilliance, Alan, like I watched that and I actually was standing up I was actually in France at my in-laws kind of place and I was standing up in front of the TV, so I couldn't have been closer to it. Can you, I suppose, tell me your reaction to that, and especially just the skill he had in that non-assist?
That run was a joke. Michael Keane was sent to the shops 3 different times by Isak that day. He turned him inside out twice and 3 times over. When you're watching that goal back, it should come with a content warning. That's not suitable for work. Like, that is a disgrace of a goal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
He absolutely ran ragged that day, and it was genuinely one of the best non-assists you ever will see. There's no doubt about it. He was on the byline when he put the ball across as well. Like, it's just you don't expect him to try go inside on the byline basically, but he cuts inside, does his man again, puts it on the play for Murphy. It could have been anyone, but it was Murphy who slammed it home, tried to run off celebrating, then realised everyone was gone to Isak, so he said, I better go with them. Unbelievable.
I mean, fair play to Murphy. He was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But it's like, for it to not even be an assist, it's still, in my head, it's the Isak goal, even though he's not scored or assisted it. And that's not common. You have that predicament.
Yeah.
But I think what it showed me, Chris, was just, you talk about some of the best strikers out there. Now, Isak's been in and out of form and in and out of fitness. And I don't think we've ever had 100% fully flowing, momentum-based Isak playing for us, with any real, with any real sort of consistency.
Yeah.
But it shows you what he could do that I don't think many strikers can do for a number 9, which is taking on and beating players at pace, at speed, with that technique and footwork.
Yeah, is he a number 9? I know I know he was signed as one, but the quintessential Newcastle number 9, big Malcolm McDonald, Alan Shearer, big massive lump that just bursts through defenses and splits the goal open like Ryder Rovers. Whereas they've made a very sensible choice here, and I like what they were doing initially. I still am liking what they're doing in the recruitment, is buying players that spread across, that can play left wing, right wing, up front, can play number 10. He could even play midfield, right wing, in a 4-4-2. No problem to him whatsoever. That moment at Everton showed the real talent that we purchased. I know he's shown it many other times with volleys and headers and assists, but that against Everton really showed what they saw. And I look back at when he played for Sociedad, he did that a couple of times when he played in the Spanish league, but that's obviously a lesser league in terms of defending. It's quite slow, but he ripped some of their defenses apart as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old. What he did to Everton is probably one of the greatest runs I've seen in a long time in the Premier League. It's real Henry-esque. It was unbelievable. And
I think that's where my mind went when you said is Isak a 9? To me, he's as much a 9 as on. It's a big comparison, right? Henry was unbelievable, but I see him as a striker the same way Henry was a striker. He's not a kind of limited number 9, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But he can do a ton. I just feel like we've not even seen half, if not 60% of what he can do. Do you know what I mean? I think there's so much more to come. Right. Speaking of runs, we had a very good run in a competition last year, and it was a Carabao Cup final. Now, we all know how it did transpire. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be on the day, and we lost 2-0 to Man United. And, if you were to ask me back then, would this not be one of the big moments of the year, not be our number 1 or number 2 choice? Yes, there's elements of hindsight and recency bias and all that kind of stuff together. But for me, it was still a huge moment. And to see what the Geordies did in London, we unleashed ourselves on London. And London hadn't seen anything like that for a long, long time, considering it's a place that's had, obviously international finals and Olympics and all that kind of stuff. I watched the game with my 2 nephews, and they are both Man United fans.
Oof. And
they had a great, now they're only like 10, so they had a great time. I mean, a great time. I, on the other hand, was basically because there's a lot of kids running around, it was a family event, I was basically on my knees in front of the TV, kind of leaning against the counter, and I was just gone demented. So I wasn't having a great time. But tell us your recollections of it. Alan, I'll start with you. Did you guys watch it together, actually? Were you in the league?
No, we actually weren't. No, none of us were at the game. Didn't watch it in the bleaker. I watched it with one of my Manchester United supporting mates and his partner and my partner. And it was one of the most disappointing results. But to quote my friend Jack, if you're listening, how's it going? His missus walked into the room and was like, I thought Man United are winning. Why are Newcastle fans all going absolutely bananas? And I turned around to her and said, because we are the best fans on planet Earth, bar none. And Jack turned around and went, I can't disagree with him. He's like, these are unbelievable. Just that day, I was like, I need more of this in my life. It was the most, and even watching on the telly was one of the most amazing things I'd ever done in my whole life. And I was like, I cannot wait till we are back there again. May not be this year. I did say we were going to win the Carabao Cup this year. Obviously, we're not going to, but I did think we'd get back to somewhere like that. Depending on fixed results on Saturday, we could still get to Wembley in a different competition, but what a day, what a result, what a poor result, but still to be part of that, even to be in the question of we got to a final, massive experience for us. Will only do us the world of good in the years to come.
And obviously, Chris, like you could link that to a couple of other big moments of 2023, because we obviously lost to Man United, and I think that was in February. Was it February, March?
February.
That spurred us on to get revenge, and not only once but twice, I believe, since.
Yes.
If not 3 times, because we're playing Man United all the time. We obviously went on to batter them in the league, and then we beat them in the league already this season, and we beat them in the cup in a way.
Yeah, 3-0, 1-0, 2-0.
Yeah. So like it's, again, I've mentioned all my kind of close family are Manchester United fans, so we've traditionally not had a great record against them. And Christian, you'll be like me, and you'll remember the back in the
Cantona goal,
Albert 5-0 and all this kind of stuff. But it's nice now that we have the upper hand, I would say. Even if they finished ahead of us in the league and obviously won the cup, I think we're still just about kind of have the upper hand on them, and long may that continue.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, absolutely. That day, and I think everyone felt this before the game started. I was, like Alan said, very proud that Newcastle get into a final. I was beyond excited, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest, I did cry a little at the final whistle, because I really felt for the team. I felt for the manager. I felt for the city. I felt for all of our group, especially with it being Man United. That really burns my soul. As you know, I do have a somewhat association with Man Red from
in the jar
from years ago. So I love beating Man Red. I love it. Yeah. I mean, Kevin Keegan style, I love it. But that was, I think the occasion got to all of them. It got to me. I wasn't even playing. I was just watching on the TV. So, I mean, it seemed like it got to them. But, yeah, it was a beautiful moment to see all the fans just getting behind it, getting behind the club and getting behind the city and the players. No matter, it could have been 5-0. We still would have sang the stadium out of it and waved our flag. So, but again, I don't want Newcastle to be like Ireland, where the fans are number one, but the team are hundreds in the world. We don't want to be the greatest fans in the world. I want to be the greatest football team in the world. Yeah, so we'll get there. I know we'll get there. I know we'll get there, lads.
Absolutely. Freaking I totally agree with that. Like, to Alan's point, if it did prove anything on a big stage, it's look at the Newcastle fans when we travel, and long may that continue, because we need to help pick up our away form. In at number 2 of moments of 2023, and I'm going to throw a little bit of bias in this one, lads, for why this one has reached the higher echelons of the list, is because I was there in St. James's Park for this one, which was the 6-1. And demolition is written here because it was a demolition of a really good Spurs side. Granted, we're going through some transition, but like, the standout for me here, aside from the result and the goals and that day, was the meaning behind this as well. If you remember, I think, it was between us and Spurs in and around like the 4th, 5th, 6th spots. And, us winning that actually gave us a big bit of breathing space and set us up to really kind of ramp home for the Champions League place, that 4th Champions League place in the end.
It took us 5 points ahead, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it was emphatic, right? And I was, I was standing in the stadium, and when you've been in the stadium, guys, you've probably both been in the Melbourne, you're looking up at the top left across the pitch at the scoreboard. And I just kept having to look at it, because on 22 minutes it was 5-0, and I hadn't a clue what was going on. So yeah, that for me gives it a definite shoe-in for a big moment and the number 2 moment of the year. But what about yourselves, lads, when you were watching that 6-1? And I'll say it again, demolition.
Absolute joke. My partner came in after about 20 minutes of that match. She was in work. I was watching at home. She came in and she was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand what's going on here. And she's like,
can you see what I'm seeing?
I was like, she's like, "Is it actually 5-0?" And I was like, "No, we're 5-0 up. It's 20 minutes in. I think I'm gonna cry." For when something like that happens, you just don't know how to comprehend. You just enjoy the moment and you go, "I'll probably never see anything like this ever again. May as well just enjoy it." And that's how I felt that day. I didn't know what was going on. And I still, to this day, kind of go, did that really happen? Did we really have 5 goals in 22 minutes?
And I think, Alan, I think Jacob Murphy was taking a leaf out of your book, because when he scored that 3rd goal from outside the box,
30-yard banger.
Everyone knows it now. That big, massive smile on his face. There was also a Newcastle fan as well as a player.
Yeah.
Just going like, I also can't believe that, but I'm going to enjoy the feeling of this. And
absolutely.
I mean, you'll never see a bigger smile on a footballer's face, I would say. And the other thing, Chris, that stood out in that game as well to memory was what I believe is called a Trivela assist from Joe Willock. And we're going to see if Chris can dig out his football terminology here. It was that outside of the boot
outside of the boot,
long pass from Joe Willock into the path of Isak, who smashes it home, and again showing that he can be a top quality elite number 9. But Chris, for yourself, like, you remember, I mean, specifically, you remember that pass and that Jacob Murphy moment, but just that overall, that 20 minutes, and of course the 90 minutes around it.
Yeah, like the 21 minutes, I think it was 21 minutes. It was 5-0, right? And I actually nearly went into an actual glitch, like a computer. I nearly glitched. I turned off the TV. I was like, starting to sweat a little bit. I was like, my palms were all sweaty. I was like, no, hang on a second. I know that sounds a bit, hyperbolic, but it was true. And I switched it off and I switched it back on, and it was still 5-0. And I was like, wait a second. Hang on a second. What? And I just, the fact that they turned up, it's like as if the stadium spiritually dragged the balls into the goals. Everybody was all on the same. That's Newcastle at their finest, yeah. And that pass was like a training ground pass, like as in like they're just having a bit of crack. It's kind of, I'm kind of relaxed today. I'll just spin that over to Isak and he can just slot it away. It's something that happens at the end of training, and you think, oh, that was a good pass, Joe. Well, thanks, bro. And they go in and get ready. But to do it on the day, and do it as soon as it came to him. He didn't even look like he didn't even really think about it. He just looked up really quickly and went, "Come." And they're the kind of inspirational moments that we've been missing with having Joe Willock out. You saw what he did with his run against Man United at Old Trafford. That was majestic. And then these kind of moments, I think this is what we're missing. We've got a tired team, but that day was one of the greatest days I've seen Newcastle play in the last 2 decades, without a doubt. Brilliant performance.
I can tell you, that night was one of the best nights as well after that result.
I imagine so.
I was there, but I'm just imagining it was because most of it's a blur.
You definitely don't remember.
Yeah.
I watched the highlights. I must have watched the highlights, lads, honestly, about 20 to 30 times. I loved it.
You know what? And if you're listening right now, we recommend you go and do the same. But before that, we mentioned that being a demolition, and it was a demolition. But the moment of 2023, lads, I think we're all fairly unanimous on it, was also a demolition. And this one was just different for so many reasons. Namely, number one, because we were in the Champions League. Number two, we're playing against PSG. Number three, they've got arguably the best player in the world on the field against us. And number four, which is suitable, we've beaten them 4-1. And I think the cherry on the top, Alan, was... I mean, it's so hard to pick because you had local lads scoring against PSG in a 4-1 win. And then that last goal by that man, Fabian Schär. Alan, what was happening in your life when that happened?
I tell you, I was actually on my holidays in Lanzarote for that game and found a little bar, had it on, grand. Bloke sits down beside me in a incredibly thick Geordie accent, spouts something to me, and I turn around and go, I'm actually from Dublin. I didn't really understand what you just said to me. And he started breaking his heart laughing. His wife then said, nobody understands him, don't worry about it. Chatting to him the whole night. When the goals start going, he said, obviously asked me, how'd you think? And I said, for some reason, we're going to do this and Lascelles is going to score. And I had the bet on that we were going to beat them by 2 and Lascelles was going to score. Lascelles didn't score, obviously, but he was like, "You're something wrong with you. Something wrong with you." I said, I've done this bet. 90th minute, Schär put that ball in the back of the net. Turns around to me and said, "This is the best day of my life, and I'm not even in the ground." I was like, "This is insane." I was like, "This, I just don't understand life at the minute." I was like, "We barely scraped into the Champions League, if you know what I mean." But we then just went out and put PSG to the sword, and we were like, it's our first year back in this, lads. We're not meant to be enjoying it this much. Obviously, things didn't go our way in the group, but to have moments like that is just beyond belief, really. And Shar's goal, unbelievable.
Yeah, like obviously it's lovely we've had a moment like that. I think it started off with a really good opening draw in the San Siro, right? Which you take nothing away from. Not an easy place to go and get that. And I think we were outplayed, I think.
Absolutely.
But just we walked to St James's Park, and again, it's a Jacob Murphy reference because everyone looks at Jacob Murphy when the Champions League music is playing in James's Park. But to go and really like take a manager like Luis Enrique and take a team like PSG completely by like they were blown away by not only the atmosphere of the stadium and the noise of the fans, but just the pace and the emphatic nature of how we were playing that day. And again, Christian, this will feed into the question for later. How do we get back to those glorious days? And hopefully they're not far away. But yeah, I think, there was just, it was all happening at once. The moment Almiron smashes in the first goal was just this like explosion of euphoria that I think collectively every Newcastle fan felt at the same time. And then it just got better and better, I feel, because you had the local lads obviously getting on the score sheet. We won't talk about VAR or anything like that. And then, yeah, that Fabian Schär finish will go down as one of the greatest Newcastle United goals in history, I would say.
It was like it's up there with Albert's goal against Man Red in that 5-0.
Up the centre-back scoring goals.
Yeah, centre-back scored magnificent goal.
Yeah, obviously, as Alan alluded to, things didn't transpire the way we would have liked them in the Champions League. I think we can also connect the fact that we beat them 4-1 at home to we should have done the double over them.
Yes,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Bar what was arguably the worst moment for Newcastle in the 2023, which is the most ridiculous VAR handball you'll ever see against Tino Livramento. But I think we won't take away from the fact that those are 5 incredible moments for 2023, lads. I think it's important to just sit down every now and again and go, do you know what? That was a great year. We're now in a brand new one. Let's hope it's even bigger and better. Couple of honorable mentions as well, lads, on the list that we didn't include in the top 5, and it wasn't easy. I think we alluded to just the first game in the San Siro and the performance and just everything that went into that was huge.
Can I just say something on that?
Alan was there.
Yeah. Alan was
absolutely.
There.
I was there. I had my godson on my right, and I had my uncle who got me into being a Newcastle fan on my left. And when the Champions League music kicked in, don't care, 30-year-old bloke, tears running down my face. Just one of them moments. I was like, this is one of the things I've always dreamt of. And till the day I die, I will remember that Champions League moment kicking in, and I was just like, this is one of the best moments of my life.
Alan, honestly, I'm gonna start crying.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I hope everybody at home listening to this can genuinely feel the passion that squeezes from every pore of this man. Now, Paul, yourself and I, we love Newcastle, to death, forever. But Alan, you can really feel it. I can really, really feel it coming through.
Oh, love it.
Alan with the heart on his sleeve.
Absolutely.
Other standout moment. I mean, we didn't really allude to it. It didn't feel like there was an exact moment because I think it took that draw against
Leicester,
which I was also at. Had a good run of games back then. In the obtaining
Nick Pope save,
but Nick Pope's 91st minute save or whatever 89th minute save to make sure we kept that draw. Massive moment. I think other standout moments, maybe even more recently, Tonali's debut goal was cracking. Like obviously things haven't transpired the way we'd hoped with Tonali, but what a start that was to his career. After all the nonsense that surrounded him saying like he doesn't want to come here and he's never smiling. He was smiling when he scored that goal. I can tell you that.
I have a point on him as well. Sorry, really quickly.
Yeah,
he was bought in as Bruno's replacement. We knew this ban was coming. I said this group. I was like, look, I think we signed him for next season. He will have a full year of bedding into this squad. And when Bruno we don't want Bruno to go by any stretch of the imagination, but Bruno is our most sellable asset. And when someone comes in with a bid of 115 million plus, we're going to have to take it because it's all about trading at the minute. Dan Ashworth has said it, Eddie Howe has said it. We have to sell to buy. Unfortunately, we don't have the FFP power yet. We'll get there. But that is why Tonali was signed. I think we knew about this ban coming in.
Wow.
I think we need to let you know. I think, Krisho, we're going to take this into next week's show. Because I want to pick Alan's brain more on this. In particular,
it's very interesting.
when did Alan become an ITK? And I've never seen a man so sure of anything the way he tells us. So
Absolutely.
let's put a pin in that for the moment. We mentioned that was Tonali's first goal for Newcastle. More recently, Lewis Miley's first goal for Newcastle was cracking as well. That was like such a nice moment. Obviously, he'd put together a good few games. Everyone's talking about what a great little player he is. But he's just, he had that assist with Isak. We've seen some of the passes and the vision he has, as well as his style of play. But for him to get that goal as a 17-year-old in St. James's Park, that's the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah.
That's, do you know what I mean? For a local lad as well. So
And he's not going to do.
incredible
He's not. He's not going to do a Matty Longstaff scoring a goal against Man Red, and then okay, he got injured, but now he just doesn't exist anymore. This guy is our number 8. This guy is the future of Newcastle United's midfield, no doubt whatsoever.
What we won't talk about is the way the likes of City have looked at have looked at homegrown players as a pure profit when it comes to FFP. So you're thinking about Cole Palmer there, and obviously a lot of talks now that Conor Gallagher might get sold. So let's hope the Newcastle don't go down that direction.
Yeah.
And last couple of moments, lads. Obviously there was a big win over Arsenal, a 1-0 win at home that just felt like so much more.
Brilliant.
And they're still talking about it, and let them talk about it as long as they want. And the one last moment I want to speak of, which was one of my favorite moments of the year because I'm a petty man, was when Jacob Murphy waved. Was it Kaleta Car, the Southampton?
Yeah.
In the, I want to say that was the Carabao Cup semi-final.
Semi-final, yeah.
First one, yeah. First semi-final.
First leg, first leg.
He's just giving it one of them. Sorry, we're giving a wave to the camera, lads. For those of you
He was like that. Look, he was like, bye. It was so good.
All of us either have done it if you've played or have wanted to do that, even in work or anywhere. And Jacob Murphy took the occasion in front of a few thousand people and all the TV cameras in the country to give some absolute shithousery. I'm here for it.
Fantastic.
Super, right? Well, that's our moments of 2023, and that actually took far longer than I expected, but I really enjoyed reliving every one of those. And
I love it.
That's the platform, lads. That's what we want to take into it. So I think that will be a nice setup to go into our next section, which is going to be, we'll have to talk about it. As much as Chris Show has wanted to avoid it, we do need to kind of reflect on what has been 3 very disappointing results during the festive period and since we last had an episode live. It's only about a week and a bit, but anyway. So Alan, I'm gonna come to you first. We'll do just a minute or two on the two games initially, which was losing 1-0 to Luton away from home, and then very unexpectedly, I would say, because we were talking about home form being our thing, we've gone and lost to Forest. So I guess I want to hear your 2 cents on like what were the main 2 or 3 things you think have cost us those 2 games in what we would normally see as 2 very winnable games.
They were 2 very winnable games. Don't get me wrong. Luton will be a tough place to go for everyone, but we didn't turn up. I don't care what anyone says. We were brutal that day. The Russian players back from injury, 10 games in 30 days. I know they're all excuses. No proper recovery, no proper training, no proper preparation for games. It's all a learning curve, but I hate saying it because we need to get out of this. It's still a learning curve kind of mentality, and it's look where we came from mentality. I want to be one of the best teams on planet Earth, obviously, but at the same time, it's not FIFA, boys. You can't just go out and become world class overnight. It's a gradual game. It's a gradual game. 2 very tough defeats. Chris Wood turning into prime Messi didn't help at St. James's Park either. He couldn't do it in 24 games for us or something like that. Turns back up and is the best player on the pitch by a country mile. Dan Byrne that day should not have been on the pitch. He wasn't even remotely fit enough. He made Chris Wood look like Messi. Got turned inside out for the hat-trick goal, so just he wasn't fit. Don't even go there. Lack of preparation, lack of training is the only way I can really look at this without getting very, very negative.
Yeah. I think it's fair, and the main thing I took away, and we'll talk about Liverpool in a minute, because that's obviously the most recent game, but particularly Forest, I just started looking at it and I went, all I could think of was, it's not so much about this plan A, plan B thing, and Eddie Howe's coming under criticism saying that we don't have a plan B, but like, how can you have a plan B when you've got no personnel options to change things. So then you're just relying on, okay, we'll try and flick things tactically. But because of where we found ourselves in the last, I mean, let's call it the last 4 weeks, being so stretched, I just feel like some teams have kind of looked at it and gone, okay, we can just get at these by catching them on the break, because this is an aggressive team, especially at home, that wants to go on the front foot, that wants to come again, like to come at you, run at defenders and score goals. Let's just break on the counter. We've got Anthony Langa and Callum Hudson-Odoi, two like lightning fast players coming up against arguably, you've got Dan Burn and Kieran Trippier, like who, aren't ever going to be the fastest players, right? And especially when Trippier is bombing down so much. So I just felt like it was, especially the Forest game, like they were like happy to just catch us on the break, and they did it each time, and we never stopped it.
Yeah, look, Newcastle got Newcastle. Let's be honest here. I know it's hard to take. It's certainly hard to watch, I can tell you that. But again, like I've said in the previous couple of episodes, we have chances. Alan, we had chances. We need to take chances. Yeah. Yes, 1-0, 3-1. Look, specifically the Notts Forest game, we absolutely got Newcastle. They soaked it up, caught us on the wings, caught us on the hop. Dan Burn wasn't fit, like Alan said. Trippier's having a bit of a mare. And Nick Pope's not there to keep it steady. And they could have scored 4 or 5. Now, I know people might say, come on now. But they could have. And we're lacking in confidence. We're tired. We're overrun. And Nottingham Forest couldn't have played us at a better time. But with Luton, I would worry about any team going to play in small ground, tough. It's a hard place to go. But I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, lads. Yeah, I've seen Newcastle play a lot worse. We played all right. We just again didn't take our chances. Yeah.
Yeah, and we let the other teams do it, right. And Krisha, you mentioned confidence there, and we'll move into Liverpool. Not literally, of course. We don't want to move to Liverpool, but we'll move over to Liverpool. And this is a really weird. Like, this is a game that was, like, at the time of recording, peek behind the curtain again, folks, but 24 hours ago, I would say, roughly.
Yeah.
This is a game where Liverpool statistically dominated us, right? And obviously in that first half, quite a lot of chances. And it helps that Darwin just couldn't hit water if he was standing on a boat. Gets in all the right places, but just can't finish his dinner. But I felt like, despite that, right, and they had the highest XG and the most shots and all this kind of stuff, I still felt like this is a game that we were in for a very long time, probably until that ridiculous penalty decision where Jota just kind of was like, I'll go down, and said, like, at that point, I think it was 3-2. Now, again, they dominated us. They deserved to win, right? But this is a game where I think that we could have gotten something, and Liverpool fans would have been disgusted. But I actually don't. I felt like we were doing what we said. They're trying to catch them on the break. When, like, Gordon at times showed fatigue, but we could see what we were trying to do, and he was a lot better when he moved him on to the left against Trent, which is the dream. Is where you want to see Anthony Gordon, maybe a bit late. And he's actually looked sharp. The finish he took was great. It was a good pass through, and lovely to see Sven Botman popping up and scoring a goal, because it's something that we just don't do enough of. It's those direct headers from a corner with the height we have. But to go back on point, Krisho, I just felt like it was a different type of performance in terms of, like, how I watched and experienced it, where I felt, was this a confidence thing versus, like, we're playing a really, really good team who just outplayed the hell of us. But we still had faith in our defense and I would say some faith in our plan. And at the end of it, despite the statistical nature of it, I felt like we could have got something from that game.
Well, if any of our fan base, and not just the Irish Mags, but the general Newcastle fan base, ever wanted to see an example that these guys care, that was last night, because there was, like, bloody 41 shots on goal from Liverpool. Dubravka played the game of the last 2 seasons that he's been with Newcastle. Botman, I'm not sure he should have been playing. He seemed a bit off. Dan Burn again. I love Dan Burn. Yeah, I love him, right? But he's not our left back, guys. So enjoy him this season. Yeah, he's not even going to be a replacement centre back next season. So, like I said again, enjoy him. Yeah, but if any of our fan base, and especially ones that have been coming out with the nonsense online and saying about Eddie Howe and Newcastle this, Newcastle that last night really proved to me, I was actually quite proud of the fact that we got 2 goals. We could have had more. I thought we played quite well. Yeah, they did have 40 shots, but so what? They always have quite a number of 25 to 35 shots. For you could give Darwin, like you said, Paul, 600 chances. He might get 2 goals. But I just think that, if we really needed proof, last night was the proof that these guys care about Eddie Howe. They care about Newcastle and they want to go for it. So I was quite happy with the performance last night, even though we lost 4-2.
Yeah, but also it's one of the hardest places you can go is Anfield as well. Do you know?
Yeah,
like Anfield
absolutely.
is up there
at night time.
Players have players themselves have spoken about this. Anfield is up there with St James's as one of the the most hated places to go to because of the atmosphere of the home fans as well. So look, we could talk about it all day long. I think a while ago I talked about a big question that we wanted to ask both of you lads, which is in terms of where we are right now and turning this around. And we'll go into transfers in a moment. But prior to that, what do we think there's anything drastic that we need to change when it comes to just where we are now, how we're playing, the tactics we're using? Obviously, as Chrisho said, Eddie Howe's getting criticism from strange parts of the internet, maybe is how you could describe it.
Muppets is what you're trying to say there.
Yeah. Also, within our communities, I mean, it's fair enough. People can criticize, and they should criticize, right? But if we're being realistic, I've written down here: would having a full squad to choose from make a big difference? For example, when Liverpool brought on Ryan Gravenberch, they brought on Diogo Jota, and they brought on Gakpo, and they brought on McAllister.
I mean,
but that must feel lovely.
Yeah. Be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be lovely. I mean, we had Miggy on the bench, right? And obviously, as Chris has already mentioned, he's an out of form Miggy, and then we're just really thin.
We'll
move into January shortly. Yeah. But, I think Joe Willock and Harvey Barnes. Even if I just threw those two names at you, lads, do you feel like there's a difference to be made with the squad we currently have?
Absolutely.
Is it just down to getting them back?
It's getting lads back in the training pitch, getting lads out of the treatment room. It's getting lads back to a bit of confidence, a bit of fitness. 30 days, 10 games, that's mental. We have to get used to this though. But the amount of injuries we've had is mad. We're not the only side. Spurs have had a massive injury crisis and they went through a downturn in form. Man United had a massive injury crisis and they went through a massive downturn of form. We had a massive injury crisis. And what happened to us? Massive downturn of form. It happens. Get up, get on with it. Take it on the chin because it'll happen to everyone else, unfortunately. So roll on, lads getting out of the treatment room is all I'm going to say.
Well, let's bring them into our next section then, lads, which is where we'll have a little chat about January and the transfer. Today, as we record, it's the 2nd of January, which means the transfer window is officially open. So we've mentioned a couple of things there. We talked about getting our squad back. We talked about having less games, which is going to be lovely.
Yes.
The third piece of it, probably, Alan, is looking at January transfers. And I'm going to come to you for the first one that just will not go away and probably won't until he moves or the transfer window closes again. And that is, of course, Kalvin Phillips. So, Alan, I come to you once more and say, is Kalvin Phillips moving to Newcastle?
By the looks of things, according to Twix or Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, it's nailed on. Not that I don't want it to happen. I want any player that wants to come to Newcastle to come to Newcastle. I want good players in and around the squad. He is a good player. When he was in that lead squad, played the manic gegenpressing football that we kind of play at the minute. So this might suit him down to the ground. I hopefully will be eating my word saying I don't think he'll fit in. Never said I didn't want him. Thought he was more of the whole shoulder injury thing worries me. But if he comes in and runs amok and turns out to be our linchpin for the next 3-4 years, but the other thing is he's also 28. He's not a kid like people think he is. That's the issue there as well. So I hope he comes in. I hope he does well if he comes in. We need bodies in through the door to pad out the team, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And they need to be ready, I think, as well. I mean,
he isn't.
He's been questioned in the past about his physical fitness, and I think even Pep had to go at him after the last international tournament. So there'll be two types of fitness that we're looking at with Kalvin Phillips. Is he fit enough to come into the team and start training straight away and just start giving it large? But then obviously there isn't much match fitness there because he's played very little football.
He's definitely not Eddie Howe fit.
Is he Eddie Howe fit?
No.
Couldn't be.
No.
So that's
not at all.
That's something to be wary of, I suppose. And again, it's good. Our January, even though we've hard games in January, at least we've only 3 of them after this. We have the Sunderland game, we have Man City, and then we have at the end of the Villa, I think, isn't it? Villa away at the end of the month. So
yeah,
Alan, you said 10 games in 30 days. Now we're looking at 4 games in 30 days, which is a nice thing. It'll just be a question of, players we sign, will they be ready to hit the ground running? And Krisho, that will bring me over to you, because a couple more names, and even in the last 2 to 3 days, have popped up from a lot of the kind of different sources that I would be keeping an eye on, and that you would be keeping an eye on. 2 of those players actually are playing in the Bundesliga, and one of whom we've mentioned before, which again still hasn't gone away, and that's Serhu Guirassy, who is the striker who's in great form for Stuttgart. He's still floating around, and then the newest name I've seen is a centre back who's at Leverkusen, I believe, and it's Jonathan Tah. Have you kind of picked up on any of those whispers or rumors? Anything?
I used to sign Jonathan Tah on Pro Evolution Soccer. He was awesome. He always seems like he's 22, big, stocky, huge dude, brick wall, but with good feet left and right, good header of the ball. He's German, he's Turkish, but he's German, I think. He plays for the German team. Guirassy, 17.5 million. That's going to go right up to the end of January. I don't know who's going to get him, but I really hope it's Newcastle, because he seems to be like a Ekitike kind of guy, like I said to you, a quick Papa Cisse, or a mixture of Demba Ba and Cisse. The big ones that have come across my desk, my in the know desk, is Joachim Andersen is going to sign in the next 3 or 4 days from Crystal Palace. And it's straight out. It's already done. It was done last summer, just didn't get done, last summer. It's done. It'll be done in January. 4-year contract. Andre Santos is going to be coming in on loan for 6 months from Chelsea.
Is he not at Forest?
He was at Forest. He's gone back. He's gone back.
Is he already?
He's gone back, right? And so Eddie has been very interested in him, taken for 6 months. But I'm with Alan. I mean, I want any player that comes to Newcastle to do well and want to come. I'm not a huge fan of the Kalvin Phillips thing. I've looked into it more the last couple of days, and I'm thinking, where's like if someone anywhere mentions to me that this number 6 thing, we've got to stop talking about football like we're playing FIFA. This number 6 crack has to stop. Yeah, like people know what it is. Yeah, because they don't know what it is. It's a defensive midfielder. That's what we need. But we already have them. With Bruno, Joelinton can play there. Tandro Tonali can play there. Longstaff can play there. They're all pretty much defensive midfielders, to be honest with you, apart from Lewis Miley, who's supposed to be an attacking midfielder. So this number 6 thing has to stop. Yeah, Kalvin Phillips is not a number 6. Yeah, he's just not. And this holding midfielder, he's just a midfielder. Yeah, that is more defensive than he is attacking. That's it. But like I said, is he ready to come from such disappointment of signing a 6 or 8 year contract, not playing it in 1 minute this season, to come in and play against Man City or to play against Aston Villa at the end of the month? The answer, I'm sadly going to say to you, is no. But I think, Alan, you're right. I think we will be seeing him coming through the doors in the next couple of days, which is, I mean, I think they're going to buy him. Like, I genuinely believe we're going to buy him.
Look, we've said it before, lads. We do tend to trust the process, and like if whoever it is, if it's Eddie Howe, if it's Dan Ashworth, with the exception of maybe Lewis Hall, who we probably would like to just see more of, never mind how well he plays first. Like, almost every signing has worked to an extent. Like, again, we don't want to go into detail on the Tonali thing, but I think usually when we're signing players, we know what we're doing. I just hope there's no panic, or if there's panic, it's good panic. I've seen Brahim Diaz name thrown around, but he was on loan at Milan last season. But he's been back at Real Madrid. I'd find it hard to believe unless it's a loan, which makes it affordable. And the only other that might be realistic, because we talked about loans there, lads, Alan, could be Yakuba Minta coming back, and that still hasn't been put to bed as far as I've seen. I've not heard anyone shut it down or say it's not happening.
It can't happen. I said it before. He's so raw, it's unbelievable. Like I'm going to quote Sean Casey here. If he didn't have a stand in front of him, he'd run out of the stadium. He puts his head down. He's like a horse.
Yeah.
He's like a horse. The blinkers are on. He cannot see what's around him. It's just dead straight. Sees the byline, puts the ball across. Them lines weren't there. He's keep going.
Yeah.
Needs a year away. And he's still in. They're still in the Champions League, aren't they? Or they're still in Europe.
They're still in Europe, yeah.
Still in Europe.
Yeah.
They were in
That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah,
That hurts.
yeah.
Come here. It's more experience for him that we are going to need in the future. So leave him in Feyenoord for as long as we possibly can. Get him as much game time as, because what's the point in bringing him back? And then in 3 weeks' time, Barnes is back. Almiron's still okay. Gordon's ahead of him. You've Isak, who's arguably ahead of him. What's he, 5th choice? Leave him getting game time away.
Yeah, look, we need a striker. I said it to you before we started, and I think everybody that's listening is going to 41% Callum Wilson has played. Has missed.
Yeah.
Because he signed for Newcastle. 41% of games. That is, I love Callum Wilson. Again, I love all of these players. But again, this isn't good enough. We need a striker. We need a young striker. Maybe Garassi has been, I mean, it's quite, was it, Alan? I think it's 14 goals in 12 games or 17 goals in 12 games or something like that. I mean, maybe he's just having a great season. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just another flash.
He's not, and he's not like he's not a young man, but what he might be is ready in terms of age, experience, fitness, and form. Do you know what I mean? Which
that's
might
the key word. That's the key word, Paul. Ready. We need players that are ready coming in January.
We need players that are ready, and maybe in a week's time we'll have a bunch of new names either signed or being talked about for us to review. So I'd say we'll leave the transfer news there, and we're probably going to move into. Again, you know this is my favorite part of the week, which is the famous Chris Show's bad take of the week. But this connects as well, Chris Show, because in and around the transfers world, the last time we recorded, you had arguably your own bad take and worst take of the year when you said, let's get Isaac Hayden back because he's finishing up his loan.
Yeah.
But I've heard today, a couple hours before we started recording, that Sheffield United might be in for him. So I just wanted to break that news to you, Chris Show, gently. Make sure you're doing okay. And you can put all your eggs back into the Jeff Hendrick basket once more.
Yeah, absolutely no.
So, Krisho, let's have it. Can you bring us the first Krisho's bad take of the week for 2024? 2024.
If Eddie Howe loses against Sunderland, he should be sacked. Jose Mourinho is lined up to come in as the manager of Newcastle. It's already been agreed over the summer in Qatar and Dubai, and everyone loves him at the top level. This is the kind of global kind of ambassador they want to take the club forward for the next 5 to 7 years. Eddie Howe has done the job that they asked him to do, to sweep up the shit, excuse my French, that was left around before. He's cleaned up the ground. He's put in made use of the amenities he's been given. But thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Head physio was the first to go. He's already gone a couple of days ago. You can say all about paternity leave all you like. That was already arranged. They're bringing in their own staff. And that's probably going to be the bad take of 2024, but it's in the first week of 2024. But this is not going away, and I know I'm with you guys. Trust me, I'm with all of our listeners too. I'm an Eddie Howe guy, right? I am, but I can't seem to get away from it. Anywhere I click or anywhere I listen to somewhere about Newcastle, all I ever see is things about Jose Mourinho, him talking about Bobby Robson, him smiling, winking, saying this, saying that, and that's the bad take of this week, and it's probably going to be the bad take of the January transfer window, because if we don't get the good business in, God forbid, and I don't believe in God, but God forbid that we lose against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. I am telling you straight here now, something drastic is going to happen. Drastic. This is too important. There's too much money invested. Something drastic is going to happen, and it's going to involve Jose Mourinho and Jason and Eddie, FIFA style, going out through the doors, holding their bags.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I know these aren't your bad takes, Chris. Just for the record, these are bad takes that we pick up in the community. But Alan, so much for Chris Show just making us all feel reassured and relaxed in going into the new year, because he's just put the shit on going into this Sunderland game. Yeah, I don't know if we even need to go into too much detail on the.
No, don't. That's just a bad take, guys.
My only thing is,
Alan's been shaking his head for 3 minutes. He's been shaking his head for 3 minutes.
I just feel like Jose Mourinho, while achieving loads in the game, has probably the most red cards any manager's ever had, and goes
He
missing.
also plays the worst football known to man.
Yeah.
It's that
Look,
anti-football that it's Bruce ball, but with better players is what he is. He's essentially a glorified Steve Bruce. I cannot go back to that crap. Just defensive mind. We're solid. We'll only concede 18 goals, but we'll score 19 and win the league. Get away with it, will you? Brilliant.
Well, that's a good movement into as we approach the end of the pod. Before we go, a couple of pieces of business to attend to, and you've just mentioned it. A little game against our arch rivals down the road, the Mackems, which is Sunderland in their own backyard, FA Cup third round, lads. Obviously, as we mentioned at the top of the pod, this game has picked up a lot more importance with each day that has moved and with each game that we've had. We've got Man City the week after, but it's all about Sunderland as it stands. Premier League, nobody's minds. This is Newcastle against Sunderland. First time in 8 years, Alan. I suppose the big question really I would have for you is meet up is a big one for this. For the Irish lads. Are we? If you could fill us in about the meetup that's coming up, and I don't know if we know it yet. Do we know if we've had many people successful in getting tickets for what is obviously going to be a tough game, the away end in?
We were successful with 0 tickets, so yeah, not happening. I think it was 12 million loyalty points. I don't think any of us were got that high. I'm gonna correct you. You said meet up. It's meet ups, plural. So shout out to Paul Slaughter and the Cork lads who will be meeting in Quinlan's Seafood Restaurant and Bar from 12:15 on Saturday for what? It's a game that I was praying every year. I'd love them in the cup. We get them in the cup, and I didn't want to play them. What did I wish that for? It was the worst thing in the world. It was what I always wanted. I got it, and I didn't want it. It's the weirdest sensation in the world. But what can you do? Obviously, for the Dublin lads, we have a bit of a special meet up that we're going to consider our Christmas party. So Johnny from the Bleaker has wonderfully told us he will open up at 11:30 a.m., which is a full hour and 15 minutes before kickoff, if you want to have a few pints early in the morning.
Nice.
After the game, we're also going to do our very own in-house Magstermind quiz, which I will actually be hosting, I think, with Krisho himself if he decides to turn up.
Wow.
I'll be there. I will be there with bells on.
He hasn't turned up for a quiz yet, Alan, but that's a different
Yeah, I know, yeah. That's why he's the quiz master this time with me.
You guys are the worst.
We've also wrangled a little bit of finger food for after the quiz, which will push nicely into watching the Chelsea and Preston game at 5:30. So we should make a proper day out of it. And for just people who are wondering, we've lads coming from maybe Galway, Cork,
deep breaths,
Belfast, Portlaoise, and several other corners of this mad island, all going to be converging on Bleaker Street Bar from 11:30 on Saturday morning. I think there'll be lads going home in ambulances at 3 o'clock after 46 pints, but we'll enjoy ourselves.
As we've said in the past, we don't condone this type of behavior. Drink responsibly, all of that kind of stuff, and stay safe. But most importantly, stay as a group together wherever you're enjoying the game, whether it's a meetup, and of course, if you're watching at home as well. Sure to be a cracker. Like Krisho, in 20 seconds. Should we really be worried about Sunderland? They've just hired a new manager.
No.
They've lost 2 on the bounce since.
Stop there, Paul. Stop. You don't need 20 seconds. No, Sunderland are terrible. No. The terrible pitch, terrible stadium, terrible people. They're called the Mackems because all they did was make, and then we tacked it. No. There's nobody on their team that is anyway a problem for us. That said, and I want to make this very clear to the two of you and to all our listeners. This is the most important game of 2024. Don't care what anyone says. We could be 19th in the Premier League. This is the most important game. This Eddie Howe and everything I've just said previously from the bad takes. This is hanging on this. If this will bring him from a C to a D. Okay, in terms of his grading and form.
If it doesn't go well,
it doesn't go well. Yeah. So. Early, straight in. I know I didn't say 20 seconds. Straight in, 3-0 up, 60 minutes gone, put a few young lads on, make it 4-0, boom, game over.
Fine, I'll take
pray.
that.
Yeah, pray.
We'll take that, and then Alan will be free to have a few beers after. Responsibly.
Responsibly.
Super stuff.
Okay.
Right. So that brings us almost to the end of the show, lads. There's one other piece of news, or I suppose Irish Mags related news I wanted to share at the request of a little known man by the name of Tev. There will be an Irish Mags member survey. It's the second ever Irish Mags member survey, I believe, being sent out before the end of the month. I think we've got a gap in fixtures, so I believe it's going to be sent out in and around that moment.
Yeah.
So keep an eye, obviously, on our communication channels, email, pigeons, all of the things that you use to communicate towards the end of the month. And that's one important piece of news to share. And there was another piece of breaking news, Alan, I believe, from your side of the camp.
Yes.
That we didn't nearly forget at all, and we'll never tell anyone that we nearly did.
Yes. So for lads that are interested, we are in the process of trying to set up a 5-a-side team or 5-a-side teams. Because we've lads on the north side, the south side. Now this is Dublin at the minute. Dublin at the minute, lads. We're very sorry if you live in the country and you want to come here. If you want to travel up, you're more than welcome to. But at the moment, we are looking into setting up at least one 5-a-side team and potentially a second 5-a-side team to go into mini little competitions in the Astro Leagues. The only stipulation is you have to have a pair of football boots and you have to have a Newcastle jersey because that will be our home kit.
Excellent. I mean, myself and Alan are extremely good footballers. Let's just put it out there. So, I'll be playing like number 10, holding midfielder, maybe number 6.
It's good thing it's 5-a-side.
Yeah. You can be number 6 in a 5-a-side, no problem.
Hey, screw you guys.
You might need to wash the blood and Guinness out of some of your Newcastle kids. That's the other.
Blood. Why is there blood, Paul? Come on, why is there blood? I mean, come on.
Never. Great to hear, lads. So, yeah, 2 pieces of news for the Irish Mags community to keep your eyes and ears out open for. Right, lads, I think that's it. We aren't going to do a quiz this week because we've got, obviously a live Magstermind challenge happening in person at the weekend. And we wanted to see how Crisho kind of does, because he's embarrassed himself, I would say, Alan, right? He's embarrassed himself in the last 2 quizzes we've done on this show. So we'll put a pin in the quiz for next week and we'll be back with a great one for you. So for now, all we can really say is, once more, Happy New Year from the 3 of us and from all of the Irish Mags committee to all of the Irish Mags community and all our listeners. Obviously, this is episode 5. So thank you again to everyone for listening. Obviously, last year and for the year that's ahead, we're really looking forward to it. You can find links to all the Irish Mag socials in the description below, and as well as all our contact details. If anybody wants to get in touch about any sponsorship opportunities, 2024 is a brand new year. Thank you to everyone who's followed and liked and subscribed and given us any kinds of comments and feedback. The more the merrier, so keep them coming, guys. And until then, hopefully next time we get together in a week's time, we'll be talking about how we've battered those Mackhams from over the road, because Crisho has assured us that we will.
4-0.
For now, guys, thank you very much. Alan, say goodbye.
Slán lads, thanks very much.
Man, and of course, Crisho.
Slán fellas. God bless you. Happy New Year. Lovely to see you again. And let's slay those Mackhams.
Let's slay some Mackhams indeed. Long may it last. Slán go fóill, Happy New Year, and we'll catch you all again soon.
Slán.